Welcome to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. My name is Rob Murgatroyd, and I'm a former doctor turned lifestyle entrepreneur. Each week, I interview some of the best minds on the planet on the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. Come take this journey with me. Excuses are over. It's time to live.
Every day, these kids would come up to me and say, "Uncle, uncle," and they kick the ball to me and I'd kick it back to them. And it just shifted my whole perspective on what I'm focusing on. And the moment I started doing that, I started coming back into creation instead of lack. The modeling industry is all, you're looking at you, that you're your product. And I didn't really get that black models don't work as much as white models, or ethnic models don't work as much as white models, until I was in the game, because I never really looked at myself like that. It really tested my coaching skills and brought me up to a level where I'm not afraid to go there with somebody, because I know how to be in that space when they are in the breakdown or they're in the fire.
Okay, before we jump into this interview, I want to invite you to be considered for my 2019 Traveling Mastermind. So go to workhardplayhardmastermind.com and fill out the application, and we'll jump on a call to see if you're a great fit. This year, we'll be in Boston doing lots of cool things like training with Tom Brady's trainer, Alex Guerrero. In the middle of the year, we'll be heading to Monaco doing things like vintage car rides through the French Riviera. And then we're going to wrap the year in Florence, Italy, doing things like truffle hunting and hot air ballooning over Florence. Look, life is all about fulfillment, and I really try and walk the walk. So if you are looking to be part of our tribe of 28 high-achieving entrepreneurs that are in the 6- and 7-figure range, fill out your application at workhardplayhardmastermind.com to be considered. So think of the mastermind as having two parts. The first is the trip itself, and the second part is what goes on over the 4 days within the mastermind. Our group of 28 entrepreneurs will help you brainstorm and accelerate what you want to achieve in 2019. And we'll do that through a variety of different exercises, brainstorming activities, breakout sessions, goal-setting sessions. You know the drill. So go to workhardplayhardmastermind.com, fill out an application, and we'll jump on a call to see if you're a fit. All right, let's jump into today's episode. What's up, everybody? This is Rob Murgatroyd, and welcome to another episode of the Work Hard, Play Hard show. This episode features Emile Steenveld. You can find him on Instagram and elsewhere at Emile Steenveld. So Emile was an Australian model and actor. He was traveling the globe for 12 years. And once he got to LA, the recession hit, and he had to work 3 jobs to keep afloat, working, 15 hours a day. His car got repossessed. He was on the edge of leaving all of his dreams behind. And that's when he decided to place all bets on himself. And he committed to full immersion of self-development by aligning himself with his values and his purpose. And I think it's really, really easy for us to get off track when we don't know the things that are driving us. And so it took us a while to get this interview scheduled because of our time changes. He's in Bali and I was in, I think, Spain at the time of doing this. So we were just literally, it was like early morning, late night. But we made it happen. And I think there's a lot of gems here for you. So give this episode a listen. Let me know what you think. A lot of people have been asking me about private coaching. I'm working with a select few people that are ready to make a change in their life. If you fall into that category, go to workhardplayhardcoaching.com, complete an application, and we will jump on a call. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Emile, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Well, technology is amazing. I'm in Croatia. You're in Bali. It took one flip of the switch, and now here we are. We've come a long way from dial-up phones, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
I am so excited to do this interview with you. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I think a good jumping off point would be to talk about growing up in Australia. How do you think that having parents who escaped apartheid in South Africa shaped your model of the world?
Well, Rob, growing up with parents from Cape Town, South Africa, really shaped the way I looked at myself. And it's funny you asked that because I'm Australian, but it's weird. Somebody asked me this the other day. They're like, "You're Australian, but you're not." And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I was raised in Australia. I was born in Australia, but I wasn't accepted like an Australian. You know what I'm saying? So it was one of those things where it was kind of like I was at school and I was the kid that was like light skin, brown or tan skin, and I would get teased because of my color skin. So it's one of those things where like my parents that brought me up in a culture, but I had to really learn how to really embrace me as a human being and embrace myself and really love myself, because when you're so different, it's you can either take you down or you can bring you up.
Yeah, I bet. When I think about Australia, you know, I'm from America, as you could probably tell, and I've never been to Australia, and I don't have a reference point for, you know, what it would be like being, you know, of South African descent, growing up in Australia, and how that would, you know, sort of affect how people treated you or how people viewed you, et cetera. So maybe you can kind of, you know, talk about that, because my guess is that you were either on one end of the extreme or the other. You were either white or black. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Australia is one of those places where, you know, we had issues as well with the Aboriginals, right? So the same thing Americans did to the Indians, Australians basically wiped off most of the Aboriginals. Yeah. So as much as it's still a problem that's getting fixed, it is one of those places where it's a place of different cultures from all over the world. Growing up in Australia, I didn't really see myself as, like, of course I got teased for, you know, being different color skin, and that's what kids do. They, you know, you can be assholes, you know, so that's what they do. But it's funny, when I look back, I was teased for being different, and then I liked my difference, but it never was as segregated until I came to America, actually.
Really? How so?
So let me give you an example. I came as a model in 2007, 2008. I was in LA, and I remember going to a casting, and they had on the forms like black, Hispanic, other, and I was like, well, what am I?
Right.
And I didn't really get it until then. And even in the modeling industry, it really got me to really, like, you know, the modeling industry is all, you know, you're looking at you, that you're your product. And I didn't really get that black models don't work as much as white models, or ethnic models don't work as much as white models, until I was in the game, because I never really looked at myself like that growing, like as I got older, until I got into industries where it was like predominantly like, yo, we need this kind of model, or we need this kind of model.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Have you been to South Africa?
Yeah, I've been a few times.
Okay. I was there a year and a half ago. I went for Christmas, and it was amazing. I mean, there was a lot of things I absolutely loved about it. I did Cape Town. And the thing that struck me the most was how, when I went into a restaurant, it was either 100% white or it was 100% black.
Yeah.
And there was a substantial and very obvious difference. You know, if I went on the beach, there was a black area and there was a white area.
Yeah.
And it was really, really the first time, you know, and I'm moving to LA in a couple of months. I'm doing 4 months in Europe now, but ultimately we're going to Los Angeles. But prior to that, I lived for 25 years in Atlanta. And, you know, even being in the deep south of Atlanta, I didn't see that kind of segregation. So I thought that was interesting. You mentioned modeling. And your modeling career was you know, not like, you know, some kid who gets a picture in the Sears catalog. I mean, you were a real runway, you know, kind of model. So, you know, you had success with modeling in high school, and in your 20s, you were traveling the world doing fashion shows.
Yeah.
I mean, I could name the cities, but it would go on forever from Asia to Europe.
Yeah.
What was it about modeling that attracted you to it?
First of all, Rob, I didn't think that I was good enough to be a model. And I got asked several times by different people, and I kept rejecting it because I was playing out scared of rejection. And what does the universe do? It's like, here's a lesson, and you're either going to take it or you're not. And after 3 years of me consistently saying no to it, I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to go for it. But I'm the kind of person, Rob, that if I'm going to go for it, I go full on at it. And it was one of those things that it taught me so much about myself, and it taught me about acceptance. It taught me about not being attached to the result. It taught me about confidence. It taught me about how to open up conversation, because you're going to a casting and there's 200 models, and it's like, how are you going to be the one they remember? So the thing that drove me was the game and the challenge of making connection, showing up, being professional. And actually, it was interesting, Rob, because it taught me so much about acceptance, because even if I got rejected and I accepted myself, then I was growing. And I couldn't hold on to the job that just said no to me. I had to always focus on what's the next one. So during that process, it was a real self-discovery journey. And a lot of people go, how do you go from being a model to being a coach, an emotional intelligence coach and transformational speaker? And I got most of my lessons from being a model.
It's really interesting. Did you have the self-awareness back then that you were doing that, or is it more in hindsight now, looking back, you were able to, sort of like glean those lessons?
Well, it was kind of a similar time I just started getting into self-development. My mother has been studying psychology her whole life, so I've had these books around since I was a kid. But when I got into modeling, I just did my first self-development course. And it was like a year after modeling, and then I did my self-development course, and then I would take books with me everywhere I go. And I was curious about human behavior. I was like, if I'm going to do something, I want to study everything about it. So I was like, what makes someone confident? And, it comes down to the way they communicate, the way they show up, their body language. And I would watch the top models versus the people that were not getting the attention. Like when we go to castings, for example. And I remember walking into a casting and I was like, I don't know what this is about. And I was totally lost. And there was a bunch of people kind of making small talk, but every single person in there was kind of nervous and they wanted that job. So in my head, I was like, well, what makes me different than anybody else? And I had to ask myself that from the very start.
Yeah, that's real. I could see that. That's real. Isn't it weird how we get these lessons in life?
Yeah. Yeah. So many.
You were in LA and you decided that you wanted to become what my friends lovingly call a mactor, which I'm sure you've heard that word, right? A model actor. Could you describe, have you heard that one, or is that a new one for you?
I actually haven't heard of a mactor.
You haven't heard of a mactor? Well, there you go. You were a mactor. So you didn't even know that. You were a mactor.
Yeah.
You were a model actor. Could you describe what the process of executing on a vision like that is really like? A lot of people have, stars in their eyes and they want to go to LA and they want to start a new life and they want to be an actor and they want to be a model. And maybe they've had success in a high school play back in Oklahoma, or wherever. Mm. What's it really like?
I mean, it's tough. It's one of the toughest industries out there because you've got 50,000 people moving into the one area every, I don't even know how many months. And you got to think that everybody has a dream. Now, the interesting thing about this dream is that you may be pursuing it for the wrong reason. And if you're coming to LA to make famous because you don't love yourself, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And this is what I saw in LA. I saw a lot of desperate souls trying to make it in one thing and doing everything they can, but you're either coming from fear or you're coming from love. And if you're constantly trying to get through and just pay the bills and you're working 3 jobs, which I was doing at one time, I was working 3 jobs because the recession hit, and you feel it in your body. You start to second guess. Now, before I even came to LA, Rob, I was doing really well with the modeling. I was in Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, and I was doing great. And when I came to LA, I just bought a brand new car. I was like, yep, I'm going to be working like this. LA Models just sponsored me for 3 years. They weren't sponsoring very many people because the recession just hit. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't matter about the recession. And it hit me so hard because when I got there, they weren't hiring new models or taking new risks. So I had to source other ways to survive. And it was actually one of the toughest times I've ever been through. I'm talking to the point of the doubts. Every question I ask myself, personal development wise, like what else can I do different? How can I speak to the bookers? How can I get more work? How can I be more, connect to the clients more? Nothing was working. And when nothing works, it's like, what else do you got? I literally started praying, and I haven't prayed in like years. But I remember it was one of the toughest things I went through, but I got so many lessons from being there.
It's interesting because I'm going back in my mind as you're telling that story, and I'm thinking about, this is where it gets tricky. And I know you do coaching for a living, so you're going to have an amazing answer to this question. But here's the question. At what point do you give up on the dream of something that you really, really want because of XYZ, right? The economy hits, the recession hits, they're not hiring, I'm working 3 jobs, versus saying, well, you know what? Obviously, the signs are not lining up on the road the way I want them to line up, so I need to go in a different direction. How did you deal with, the question of tenacity, of I'm just going to keep going until I do it, versus I'm going to do something else because this isn't working?
Well, after LA, I kind of asked myself, I was like, okay, what do I like about it here? And I actually decided to try New York. The whole dream was to go to New York. And I was like, if I get to New York, then it's the best of the best. I've done it. So when I noticed I wasn't working as well in LA, and this is the thing, Rob, every market is different. Like you could be great in LA and terrible in New York, or great in New York or terrible in LA. And that's because the LA market is commercial. And for me, being South African, I was considered either light-skinned black or I was considered Hispanic. So I got the name, what is it? Ethnic ambiguity. Very ambiguous.
Ethnic ambiguity.
Yeah. Is it ambiguity? Yeah. Well, like we're gonna he's ambiguous, but they couldn't put
Yeah. Well, ambiguous is the word, but ambiguity. That's the word. Ambiguity.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. It was going to drive me crazy. Good. We got it.
So it kind of just I was feeling kind of defeated because I wasn't your commercial looking model that could just go and do a commercial. And when I went to New York, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try New York. And when I went to New York, I started working a lot more because they like that. They don't want the typical black or this, that they like edge, they like difference. And that kind of threw me back in, like modeling in New York compared to LA was a totally different ballgame. And I started working again and getting more confident back. And, even after a year and a half being in New York, I was like, am I happy doing this? And I remember asking myself, I'm like, what am I doing right now? And I was doing a lot of yoga and a lot of self-development work. And a friend of mine was in India at the time. We just shot a campaign for Verizon, and she was like, I'm going to India. I just got booked for a big Bollywood film. Anyway, she blows up in Bollywood, and she's like, why don't you come over? And so I'm like, all right, sweet. So I just signed with Wilhelmina in New York for another 3 years. They're about to do my new visa. And my booker says to me, please don't go into an ashram and grow a beard and never come back. And I was like, yeah, don't be silly. One, it's silly because I can't grow a beard, unfortunately. But 2, I went to India. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go for 3 months. And I was really going to India just to kind of decompress from everything and just sort of see what's out there. So I did an agency out there, and I ended up booking a diamond commercial straight away as soon as I was there that paid a lot of money. And the thing about India, as soon as I landed, I was like, I feel so comfortable here. The chaos, the cars, the dirtiness, it didn't bother me at all. I wasn't shocked at all because I've seen that stuff in South Africa. I've seen shacks before, except in South Africa, it's 10 times more dangerous. So I just felt immediately at home. And when I went to India, from 3 months being there, I had an agency there. And whenever I got an agency, a job booked, what I would do is I ride a motorcycle, right? So if I hadn't been to a city, I would tell them, I'm like, if I haven't been to a part of India that you're sending me to, I'm going to take a week off and I'll travel and I would journal and I would just reflect on what I'm doing. And India turned from 3 months into 2 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, I never went.
That's some crazy shit right there. There's 2 people I know who go to India. One has the reaction that you have. Yeah. Oh my God, this is incredible. The other one is get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah. That's what most people, you either like it or you hate it. You literally.
But you loved it. So you stayed there for 2 years. Did you just tell your friends in LA, hey, look, I'm not coming back. I'm going to be doing yoga?
I was in New York and I didn't go back to New York. I left my stuff. I left everything. I fully let go.
Whoa. Okay. All right. So now you're in India. So this question is going to be a lazy question, but what was it like in India for 2 years? What did you love about it? What did you not love about it? Why did you leave? Just give me some high level view.
I mean, India taught me how to come back to simplicity and gratitude. And I remember walking through these slums. I used to walk through these slums every day to get to my gym. And every day these kids would come up to me and say, uncle, uncle. And they kick the ball to me and I'd kick it back to them. And it just shifted my whole perspective on what I'm focusing on. And the moment I started doing that, I started coming back into creation instead of lack. When I was in America, I was always looking, what's next? It needs to be bigger. I need this, I need that. And I wasn't in alignment with my values. And the moment I came to India, it really simplified what I'm focusing on and brought that gratitude on a daily basis. And that shifted my whole, like I said, it shifted my whole perspective, but it changed everything. I was creating more. I was connected more. I was traveling. I was being more present. I didn't need a lot to survive. And from there, then I got really connected about when I was traveling throughout, I traveled from Leh Ladakh in the Himalayas, did meditation with monks. I rode on bus trips through the mountains, thought I was going to die because you could look over the edge and it looks like it's 200-meter plummet. And you would see buses that have done it before. I've gone whitewater rafting through icy rivers. I've gone, I did my yoga teacher training. It's such an adventure that I just got so connected to who I was and what I was creating. And that's when India gave me my purpose back, basically. It gave me time to think, and it gave me time to really think about who I want to be. Because I knew modeling was only it wasn't going to be forever.
Why did you know it was not going to be forever?
I got to a point after 12 years of doing this craft that I wasn't fulfilled. And let me tell you this, I left India after 14 months and I went back to modeling in Australia, and I worked the most I've ever worked. And I made the most money I've ever made. And that was my whole goal. If I made a lot of money, that would mean I'm successful. Mm-hmm. And after working, I had 4 days off that year, literally in Sydney. I was in Sydney at the time. And it just so happened to be that all these online stores were coming in, so I was shooting a whole lot of online stuff. And I just so happened to be a perfect medium, a 32, and I was doing swimwear and I could wear suits. So it was natural. It's luck. It was luck because I had all these online companies asking me to shoot. And once one got me, they were like, we need to book you every week. And it got to the point where are you booked with this company? And I'm like, no, you need to ask my agent. So I literally had 4 days off that year, but I was like working on a factory, a glorified factory worker. 300 outfits in a day, 3 shots each outfit. Calculate that, right? It's 1,200 shots. It becomes numb your mind doesn't grow. You feel it's boring. I'm making so much money and I'm so unfulfilled.
God, this is such an interesting conversation. There's so many different roads I want to go down with you, but I have a lot of ground to cover. So we're gonna kind of just have to go lightning, high level, and maybe do a part 2 here. But
yeah, cool.
I'm assuming that what's tied together in that story of you going from India to Bali is meeting Joel Brown. Maybe you can tie that in a bit and explain how that started and how you wound up stepping into the world of events that you're doing now. And by the way, your videos are insanely good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I ended up going back to Australia. Like I said, I was modeling there. I was making a lot of money. We worked a considerable amount that year, and I wasn't happy. And I ended up actually going back to India for the remaining, which made up that 2-year stint altogether.
Yep.
After India, I was kind of like, okay, cool. I've explored it so much, but what else do I want to be doing? And I was studying life coaching as well. So I was doing my online course. It was a 2-year course that I was studying. So I was doing that. I was teaching yoga, and I was kind of combining that. And then I came back to Australia actually because I had a girlfriend at the time, and we ended up doing retreat, our first retreat in Australia. We flew our Swami over from India to teach it. And I kind of got my first taste of retreats. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to start doing my coaching and yoga at the same time, because there's not one way of supporting people. Like you can go there with the mind, but it's also connected to your body. So this is why yoga is so powerful. So I started off with yoga and coaching. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this in Bali. So I set off to Bali to literally run my own retreats. And I ended up getting there and meeting a woman on her retreat space. And she ran mental health retreats. And she asked me what I want the space for. And I told her, I was like, I'm at the time I was a coach specializing in relationship with the self. And I said, and I do ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy, mindfulness as well. And she was trained in the same thing. And she's like, well, you want a job? And I wasn't looking for a job, but I'm glad I took it, because this woman now is like my business developer for all my courses. And we're super tight still to this day. And working on a mental health retreat, Rob, let me tell you, I didn't realize it was a mental health retreat. She just said it's a retreat, like a wellness retreat. And then halfway through me doing the first week, I was like, how come all of these clients have such deep-seated trauma and shit going on, like depression, anxiety, and it really tested my coaching skills and brought me up to a level where I'm not afraid to go there with somebody, because I know how to be in that space when they are in the breakdown or they're in the fire. And it just taught me so much in that 10 months working there on that mental health retreat. And from there, I actually went up to Ubud to meet another friend of mine. And I was still kind of figuring out where my base is. Do I live near the beach or do I want to live in the jungle? And one of my mutual friends was at a cafe, and she was like, oh, I need you to meet my friend Joel. And that's where I actually met Joel. And I met him 4 years ago now in Ubud. And we kind of knew of each other, but never met each other. And we knew that we were mutual friends with Preston Smiles. Do you know Preston?
Yes, I know Preston Smiles. I was with him 6 or 8 weeks ago in LA, and he's been on this podcast before. Wonderful, wonderful human being.
Dope. Yeah, so we realized we had a mutual friend, which is Preston. And when I lived in LA, I've known Preston for 12 years now. We used to model together.
Oh, I didn't know Preston was a model.
Yeah.
That explains that those fly clothes he wears all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue. Joel was there, right?
Yeah.
In Ubud?
So we met, but we didn't really we were just like, hey, what's up? Cool, nice to meet you. And then we kind of kept on doing our thing. And then it was actually Preston that brought us together, because Preston and Alexi Panos, they flew us out to speak at their leadership event, and they flew both of us out, and we connected then because we were there for like 3 days. So we really got to know each other then. And then after that event, Joel and I, we realized we have very different strengths. Joel's great with mindset, but also marketing. And I go deeper in the emotional stuff and the deeper, trauma and the patterns and behavior. So I wasn't strong in that marketing stuff. And Joe hit me up one day and he's like, hey, I really like the way you coach and you speak. And I think there's some synergies here. And he's like, do you want to run a course together? And I said, yeah, cool. What do you have in mind? And he said, well, I just did a poll with my Addicted to Success crew. And the number one thing people are seeking right now is like how to be more confident. And I was like, that's crazy because I'm just reading a book on confidence now with acceptance and commitment therapy. So we ran that course for about 30 people and it went off. And, people got great results and we're like, okay, what's next? And it just organically grew from there. I was like, what about retreats? And Rob, it was interesting because Joel's never ran retreats before. So he was like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a lot of work and this and that. And I said, trust me, let's just try one. So we tried one retreat and he was like, this is dope.
Loved it.
Yeah. And I've run retreats for, before that, like I said, I've been on retreats for the past year. So I know how they work and how to run them. I know the energy of how you got to bring it up and down. And then I was like, we're both visual people and creators, which can be dangerous too, because we can just fly up the handle. Or like, let's do this. And we need someone to kind of bring us down and go, hey, let's get some structure first.
Are you near the beach or jungle in Bali?
We're near the beach. So
you're near the beach.
Yeah, I'm about 5 minutes from the beach. My backyard literally faces off to rice fields.
That sounds incredible. How do you like living in Bali?
Oh, it's amazing. My lifestyle literally is amazing. Somebody asked me the other day, what's your ideal day? And I'm like, I'm doing it. I wake up 6 o'clock. All right, let me tell you my routine right now because I'm into hacking habits right now. I'm really going down to the deepest. What are my habits and what are my good habits, my bad habits? Because your habits is what makes you genetically, so your whole genetic makeup. And if you can really get clear about your habits, you can make your life so much easier with less effort. So I got this routine now where I get up 6 a.m. My first hour, literally, I put self-development on. And then I drink a glass of this alkaline powder. It's got all these different green powders in there. So then I wait about 15 minutes and I'm literally listening to self-development and I've got a little bungalow and I'm just looking out to the rice fields. And then I wait about 15 minutes and then I have organic chicken bone broth. And I know it sounds weird, but it's a game changer because it's all about your gut health. And for that first hour, I'm already drinking at least a liter of fluids. And then I go straight to the gym and I'm in the gym by 7, finish at 8, and then I'm back home working. I work from 8 till about 4:30, and then I take my dog, I got a puppy here from a Bali dog, and I take it to the beach and go for sunset. And it's just, this is how I live.
I mean, it sounds like an absolute dream come true. Which part of Bali are you in? What's the? I know you mentioned Ubud, but where are you exactly?
I'm in Brawa, which is in Canggu.
Canggu. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, listen, if people want to learn, before we go into the last part of our show, which is our rapid fire round, if people want to be a part of the events that you're doing in Bali, where do they go? And maybe you can kind of describe what the events are like.
Yep. So one, they can check out the website, which is www.elevatetribe.net/Bali events.
Okay.
They can also find me, which is at Emile Steenveld on Instagram, or my Facebook, which is Emile Steenveld. So everyone that comes to our events, though, Rob, has to go through application. We interview every single person that comes through the door.
Okay. And what's the events like?
So our events it's not inspirational. It's not, hey, come and get you pumped up and then you leave all inspired and in 2 weeks you fall back into your old shit patterns. It's giving you practical tools, so it's more transformational. So we do a lot of experiential activities. We get you out of your seat. You have to participate, and when you're participating, actions can't lie. So we see exactly how you show up. I also do a lot of live interventions, so I coach on stage, and I ask everybody that comes to this, course in our interview process, I'm like, are you ready to step on stage and be seen? And that's part of jumping out of your comfort zone. We want this program to really shift you, and it can't be done in a comfortable way, but we make it fun at the same time. So we have welcome drinks on the first night. Then the first day, after that heavy day of like self-discovery, we do yoga at the end of the day to bring them down again. And then we also have boot camp on the second day to bring in the feminine, masculine energy. It's about mixing it up, right? And it's kind of like an emotional roller coaster. But we give them practical tools and we set them up so that when they leave, they're like, okay, I'm really going to learn how to practice this now and step out in a way where, this is not a quick fix. And I tell them that this is not a quick fix.
Amazing. So most of the people who come to the events, are they from the States or all over the world at this point?
There are people from all over. We got people from America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, but Europe. They're entrepreneurs, but most of all, it as long as you're willing to be vulnerable and let go and play all out, it's like you're going to be a fit. We got people that are like high in business, and then we got people that are in 9 to 5s that are like, you know what, I'm not happy in my career. I need something new, but I don't have the courage, or I don't have the tribe or the support. So we get all different types, and we get coaches as well. We get people that are already coaching that are like, I need to learn more. And these kinds of events, it's about the tribe, it's about connection, and it's a lonely game sometimes out there when you're trying to figure it out yourself, or you're an entrepreneur and you feel you don't have the support network. So with the tribe, what we've noticed is people are still in touch even now, and are actually still having conversations and are meeting up and sending us pictures. Like, it's hilarious. It's actually amazing to watch and to see these people like literally making real change and continuing to make real change for themselves in their lives.
I love it. All right, we're going to go into the last part of the show, which is our rapid fire round. It's basically a first thing that comes to mind round. What would your friends say is one of your superpowers?
My ability to connect and go deep and see you.
What's the one thing that you want to get better at?
Speaking on camera.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, shit. What's my guilty pleasure?
Yeah, you got to have one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think which one.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I have one. Which one?
I would say gnocchi pasta. That's my guilty pleasure.
Oh, gnocchi. It's funny. I grew up in New York, and that sounded like nookie, which is sex. I was okay.
Oh, he's that way.
I'm glad you said pasta, because I'd be like, this guy's got a sex problem. Okay, perfect. Yeah. I absolutely love it. Okay, last question is, what one question would you like to ask me? What
inspired you to want to put yourself out there like this and impact people?
I'll be 53 years old next month, and I spent the better part of my life chasing a dollar sign. And now I'm at a place in my life where I'm much more fulfilled and happy, and doing things like what I'm currently doing, which is traveling around Europe for 4 months with me and my wife and my 4-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of people who are, midway through what I went through over the last 20 or 25 years, building a business, et cetera, that are dying a slow death. Yeah. And they want to realize, or there's some part of their higher self that's talking to them and saying, hey, look, there's a whole lot more life than waking up every day and getting in your car and driving to work. It's mind, body, and soul. And I want to be able to share that with people. And I also recognize that entrepreneurs are, they're entrepreneurs and they like to work. So, there's nothing wrong with working, but putting the balance of work and play into your life is just going to make your life happier. And if nothing else, you're going to make more money because you're more well-rounded and more centered. And I just felt like I had something to say about it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good to hear you're literally practicing what you value.
Oh yeah, I am. Well, listen, this has been absolutely fantastic. When I make my way out to Bali, which will be coming soon, I'm sure. I'll definitely look you guys up.
Yeah, definitely.
And when I see Preston in LA, I will give him a big hug for you.
Yeah, please do. Thanks a lot, brother.
All right, buddy. Say hi to Joel for me. All right. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode and you know someone that needs some help in either stepping up their work hard game or their play hard game, it would mean the world to me if you shared this podcast with them to help me get this movement out there. So if you like what you heard, head on over to iTunes, take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, and I will be forever grateful. So until the next episode, excuses are over. It's time to live.